What's going on, everybody? It is Gino. I am coming at you to break down UFC 280. This is probably the most anticipated card of the year. I would say, yeah, it is the most anticipated card of the year. Super excited to watch this fight. You have Charles Oliveira fighting Makhachev. I think that this could really solidify Charles Oliveira if he can get the win as the best lightweight of all time. And if he continues, he could be in contention for the best of all time altogether because, I mean, what he's done is remarkable. But, anyways, hey, before I get started, if you have not done this, hit my channel with a like, subscribe, and leave me a comment on your favorite fight, the fight you're most excited to, preferably one that's not the main event because there's a lot of great fights and I'd love to hear what everybody's looking at this weekend. All right, first, so we're going to go Makhachev Oliveira. So it's funny because I got into a argument on Twitter with somebody and the guy's like, Charles fans are such homers. And I was like, well, I'm actually a Khabib fan. If you don't see the poster behind me, hold on. Yeah. So I'm actually a Khabib fan, but I try to look at things logically and rationally. And my thing is, I think Charles is just the better fighter. Okay, so here's a good example. Here's what I think. You see Makhachev. Makhachev hasn't fought anybody. Like just straight up, he hasn't fought anybody. You look over at Charles. He's fought guys like Gaethje. So the interesting thing about Gaethje sparked Charles, right? But if you go back and watch interviews with Khabib said nobody's hit him like Gaethje. So I think that solidifies the chin of Charles, right? And then if you take that one step further, you go talk to Gaethje. Gaethje said that getting hit by Charles is like getting hit, like licking a car battery. So I just think that all that put together, I don't think Makhachev's seen a guy like Charles. I like the confidence Charles is coming in with. I don't think he gets it done in round one. I think he gets it done over 1.5, but I do think he gets a finish. I think he has multiple ways to get a finish, but I do not see this going to decision. He'll either get a KO, TKO, or a submission win. So, Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. All right, I got to go with Sterling. Why? Because he responded to my Instagram comment. No, but seriously, I think Sterling, he's not getting enough credit in this spot. If you go back and really watch his fights, he's super technical. For him to beat Jan, I think that kind of showcased where he's at in terms of his ability at this point. You look at the fight, it's a 5 round fight. The over 4.5 is minus 195. Aljo's plus 400 gets a submission, plus 120 to get a decision. With it being 5 rounds and he's only $8,500, I really like this. And then if you look at Dillashaw, on the other hand, he's $7,700 plus 300 to get a decision, plus 450 to get a KO, TKO. That's not out of the realm of possibilities, and he is live here. He was destroyed by Cejudo. His last 4 opponents have a combined 20 losses. So that's one thing to consider. But if you look at him, he's gotten as many as 5 takedowns. I don't see him doing that versus Aljo. Like I said, if you go watch some of the sequencing, especially from the Jan fight with Aljo, he's super technical, and I think he showcases that against Jan, and that's how he gets the win there. It may be boring. He may backpack him, maybe a lot of control time, but what does that do? That's going to generate us a good fantasy score. So, anyways, I'm going with Sterling, but I think either way, whoever wins this fight is going to be in the optimal lineup for DraftKings. So I'm going all in my 150. Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan. I love that, Sean O'Malley, like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to show the world with Peter Yan. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to lose. And Peter Yan's going to show that there's levels to this game. You haven't fought anybody. Nobody even close to Peter Yan. Peter Yan could be a champion right now. Point blank. You're not going to beat him. So, anyways, you see Peter Yan's actually plus 650, get a KO, TKO in round one. The over 2.5 is minus 205, though. And I think that plays into Yan's hands. I could see him but really, here's what I see happening. I see Yan taking O'Malley to the ground for 3 rounds, dominating him from top position, and then possibly finishing him in round three, or even getting a submission here. So I really think Yan wins this, and I don't think it's much of a contest at all. I think Sean O'Malley's a good fighter, but I don't think he's at that level. I think he's really marketable. Everybody likes him, but again, I don't think he's on that level of Jan. Gamrot versus Dariush. I am going Dariush on the money line. It's minus 650 to end TKO, KO, DQ, or decision. So that's minus 650 tells us that one of those two things are probably going to happen. So if you look over at Dariush, he has a submission win over a gatekeeper in Drew Dober, which I like that because I think Drew Dober's done nothing but shown that he's a competent fighter. He's so Darius at 7,400. I think that's a really nice dog play. He's plus 165. I don't love that he went to decision versus Ferguson later in Ferguson's career. Uh, I just don't think Ferguson really has it anymore. I hate to say that because I am a Tony fan. I like Tony, but I just don't think he's there anymore. You look on the other side of Gamrot. He has 4 wins in a row since 2020. Loss in his debut versus Kudalides. He had landed 6 takedowns versus Suka Zarian, which that's very credible because I think that's a good fighter. He scored 106 in that. At 8,800, that might not be enough, but his average is around 95 to 110. So there's a lot of worlds where he does end up scoring enough to be in the optimal lineup, or at least cash you a nice little ticket. He's plus 130 to get a decision, plus 350 to get a KO, TKO. So I wouldn't say fade him, but I'm going to be elevated on the dog. I'm loading up on the fight, so I'm going to be at least at the field on Gamrot, but I am definitely leaning towards the dog here. I like the value. Farrow versus Chukagian. I'm going Farrow or pass here. I think if Chukagian wins, it's going to be like a greasy decision, and it's not going to score well in DraftKings. She's plus 240 to get a decision, and she's plus 185 on the money line. So what is that? What is that telling us? If you look at Farrow, on the other hand, I think she's getting set up to get up to the big dogs, like fighting a Shevchenko, the good Shevchenko. If you look at it, she has 11 wins in a row, including a TKO win against Tabitha Ricci. She also has a TKO win against Leonardo. I think she can get takedowns, like a couple, and then get a finish. She could also get a quick finish. She's plus 800 to get a KO, TKO in round one, but that's not the greatest, but plus 380 to get it at any time. And then the fight over 2.5 is minus 345. So realistically, for Furo, goes to decision. She scores in the 80s in decisions, which won't be enough, but she can get as high as 120 with a finish. And like I said, she could round up some control time. If she can get 2 to 3 takedowns and then just control the fight and then possibly get a finish or just get a decision on volume at $8,900, especially if she goes overlooked, I don't think she's the worst play, but I'm not going to go crazy with it. It's Furo or pass. I don't think Chukagian in any world ends up cashing you very much, even if she wins. Sean Brady versus Muhammad. So this is a really exciting fight for me. I'm really upset at Muhammad. How could you say you hate cheesesteaks, Philadelphia cheesesteaks? That's really upsetting. But I got to put my bias aside from him saying that. I think he wins this fight. I think if you can get Muhammad at plus money, which he's plus 125, he's $8,000. Brady's $8,200. I love the fight from DraftKings perspective. I'm gonna be heavy on both guys. I think that Muhammad could get control time, takedowns, strikes, get well over 100 points in a decision win, be in the optimal lineup at $8,000. His camp that he's been training in with Khabib, I think that does because Khabib, somebody made a good point. They say Khabib, as great of a fighter as he was, he could end up being an even better coach because he's so impressive coaching his fighters up, and it shows. You look at how dominant they've been. Now, if you look at Sean Brady, on the other hand, he has 2 submission wins and 3 decision wins in his last 5 wins. He's 15-0. I think this will be his biggest test, and I always like when these guys are like undefeated and they've done really well and they're running through competition, and then they go to fight a real contender because Muhammad has fought some of the best, and he's just shown that he can do it, shown that he can compete, shown that he can win. His last loss was in 20. Muhammad's last loss was in 2019 versus Neal, and he's done nothing but get better. So, with all that being said, I'm going Muhammad, but I'm loading up on the fight. I want to make sure I have a lot of both guys. Barallo versus Muradov. I am going Barallo, and I'm going actually Barallo by submission here. I'm going to go heavy on Barallo with a sprinkle on Muradov. If you look at Muradov, he's 42% strike accuracy, which isn't that great. You look at the KO power. Which he'll need to hit at the price tag, but he'll also can get that submission. So I actually really like it. I think he's a smart fighter, Barallo is, and I could see him just really controlling this fight and then landing a submission. And if you look at his decision wins against a Petrosian, um, Omar, Gadziev, I think those are quality wins. They're decisions, but he did do well, and I think that he is a high IQ fighter on the rise. At $9,000, though, I'm going to be heavy on him, but I got to wait to see what the ownership looks like. Nikita Krylov versus Uzdemir. I'm going Krylov, and I'm going Krylov by submission. If you look, Uzdemir has been finished 4 times in his career. I think he's going to get finished again here. I think Uzdemir was a top fighter. I think he's past that now. I think he's on the other end of his career. He's fighting a guy like Krylov, who Krylov has a lot of experience too. I think that line could be further than minus 165. He does have a submission loss to Paul Craig, which I don't like. And then he has a decision loss to Ankalaev. But, Paul Craig's tricky. He can get you in that and definitely make you pay, and that's what he did here. But if you look at Krylov's plus 330 to get a decision, plus 250 to get a KO TKO, plus 120 to get a KO TKO or a submission. The under 1.5 is plus 110. I like Krylov, and I'm gonna go a little sprinkle on Uzdemir because the fact that it's set at 1.5 and Uzdemir is plus 140 tells me that it's not out of the realm for him to hit that plus 300 KO TKO and hit it early. At $7,600, he will be optimal if he can get a quick finish bonus. Almeida versus Tukogov. Tukogov. Sorry. If you see him, I really like Almeida here. He gets a KO TKO. Over 2.5 is minus 175 though, which doesn't really go well with my pick. But if you look at it, Almeida is plus 600 to get a KO TKO in round 1. He scored 103 in his win versus Trezano. He did lose his decision Dana White Contester Series fight versus Selhuber, which is not great. It's only his 3rd UFC fight. But at plus 135, he's fighting a guy who's 20-5 in Tukogov, and Tukogov he doesn't score well. So like for me, it's less about making a pick. I'm not going to bet this, but I do think the value is there at $7,900. Now I will say I'm heavy on both fighters because both guys aren't priced out of this world, and both guys could score well. Plus 600 round 1 KO TKO for a Tukogov, which tells us that's not out of the realm of possibilities. I like this fight. I'm going to be elevated on both, but how much that is, it will really depend on what the field does ownership-wise. Omar Gadziev versus Nurmagomedov. So I really think this guy's like I think Nurmagomedov's like that. That family member you have that like you're like crap. Yeah, he's my cousin. I think he's carrying that last name, and I think that's the situation here. I don't think he's very good. I think that he is the one person carrying that last name that is not very good, and I think he loses here. I think Omar Gadziev is not that great either, but I just think his 9 early finishes, round 1 and round 2, out of his 13 wins professionally, this is his 3rd UFC fight. They're both their 3rd UFC fights. I'd rather go with the plus 150 mark. He lost a decision to Barallo, and Barallo is tough. He did get a takedown there, but he did lose. He has a round 1 submission versus Janzi Silva. He's plus 300 to get a decision, plus 600 to get a KO TKO. I think Omar Gadziev hits here, and at $7,500, I really, really like him as a play. I don't even think if Nurmagomedov wins this fight, which he could, it's going to be a decision at that plus 140, and it's not going to score well. So for me, it's Omar Godziev or pass for DraftKings, and I'm going Omar Godziev on the money line. AJ Dobson, probably my favorite dog on the card. This drives me nuts, y'all. Okay. Okay. So I hate when the little bars down there at the bottom. Or Petrosian versus Dobson. I think Petrosian can win here. Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm invested in both guys, but hear me out here. I think AJ Dobson 6-1. I think he's a rising fighter. He's in his third UFC fight. I love it when these relatively unknown guys come up, but that show promise. I think there's value to those guys at plus 175. He's fought the same level of competition as Petrosian, so it's not like he's fighting a guy way more experienced than him. He's relatively unknown, as I said, and he's five of his 6 wins have been early finishes. It's $7,100. I mean, you guys see, there's a lot of dogs I'm liking, and I like, I think there's going to be some finishes, and I think that this card's not going to disappoint. And I do like Dobson to hit the plus 350 KO TKO. Look at Petrosian, he's minus 105 to get a KO TKO. The fight itself, the under 2.5 is minus 190. It's minus 225 to end in KO TKO DQ. So I think somebody's going to get a finish here. It's going to be violent. But I really think Dobson's probably my favorite dog. Like I might bet Dobson a little bit too. That's how much I like that fight. And I can see myself playing the prop of him KO TKO. Malcolm Gordon versus Makhachev. I'm not going to spend too much time. Makhachev's going to kill him. Makhachev is going to work him. Makhachev is just running through people. I think that they're building this guy up, and he's showing that he's a top guy, and he will be able to fight top competition. I don't make a habit out of playing $6,600 fighters, so it's going to be a full fade on Gordon. Makhachev or pass. I like Makhachev under 1.5. I think he gets it done. You got a crappy chin in Gordon, but he could also get submitted. Not good for Gordon. Gets destroyed here. Carol Rosa versus Landsberg. Okay, Carol Rosa or pass. I actually really like this fight because I could see Rosa scoring well in a decision a or a finish because she scores in the 90 to 115 range no matter what. At $9,200, I see a lot of people not messing with that because women's MMA, a lot of those fights just don't really get a lot of love when it comes to DraftKings unless it's a 5-round fight. So I do like Rosa. I think Landsberg is just going to get slaughtered here, and I think there could be some really nice ownership leverage here on Rosa, and that could separate us on the field, especially when you see all these big names up at the top of the card that I think people will target. So I like Rosa, and I like her to get it by decision, and that's my pick. I'm going to fade Landsberg and just call it a day on that. All right, guys. Hey, so this video is brought to you by DFS Army. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at the Real GC9. You can also, if you want to, join DFS Army. I'm always in the Discord talking MMA with the guys. We have our own channel, or there's a channel in there. You get 10% off if you put my promo code DFLGino. We have an optimizer for every sport. Just this year, one of the people won $1 million, won the Million Maker in NFL. So it's been a really good year. If you're interested in that, please hit the link. Give us a look. There's a lot of, even if you're just want to explore the site, there's a ton of free content in there. And in my description, you have the link there. Again, DFL Gino for 10% off. And I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't done this, subscribe and like. All right. Thanks. Good luck.